As we begin to head toward the end of our series of being human in the 21st century, we turn our attention today to a subject that many of you probably haven't given much thought to, and many have never even heard about, but it does actually impact your life right now, today. I'm speaking of artificial intelligence, or AI for short. Some of the world's preeminent scientists, developers and business people in the field are treating it with the same gravity and moment as physicists in the early 20th century treated the development of nuclear physics and the potential of atomic weapons. An open letter was issued earlier this year in consultation with leaders in the field and signed by many of the same. And I quote, "AI systems with competitive human intelligence can pose a profound risk to society and humanity, as shown by extensive research and acknowledged by top AI labs. Advanced AI could represent a profound change in the history of life on Earth and should be planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources. Unfortunately, this level of planning and management is not happening. And even though recent months have seen AI labs locked in an out-of-control race to develop and deploy ever more powerful digital minds that no one, not even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. Contemporary AI systems are now becoming human competitive at general tasks, and we must ask ourselves, should we let machines flood our information channels with propaganda and untruth? Should we automate away all jobs, including the fulfilling ones? Should we develop non-human minds that might eventually outnumber, outsmart, obsolete and replace us? Should we risk the loss of control of our civilization? Such decisions must not be delegated to unelected tech leaders. Powerful AI systems should be developed only once we are confident that their effects will be positive and their risks will be manageable. Therefore, we call on AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months the training of AI systems more powerful than GPT-4. End quote. That letter was issued in March this year, and here we are nearly 6 months later, and I don't think anything has been done in response, not by a government anywhere. So what, you may ask, what has this got to do with me? Well, it's not only impacting your life right now, but it may well impact your children and your children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. The church needs to be informed about this matter and have some idea on how to respond and know where our resources lie. In South Australia earlier this year, it was decided that students would be allowed to use AI, ChatGPT-3 I think it was, in their schoolwork under supervision to teach them to responsibly use AI in their schoolwork. But the question is, well, will all students who have free access to this stuff anywhere, anytime on their phone or any device, will they just use it to lazily get the AI to do all their work for them? What is their work and what is not? And Peter was just talking to me yesterday, about how businesses now, you can set yourself up on the internet, say you're going to provide a service and then bill people for an hour of work, but you just don't even know how to do that job. You feed it into the AI, get the answer back out, 2 minutes work, you build them for an hour and you've got no qualifications. Scary stuff. What does it become when our doctors start using AI to pass their medical exams? How are we going to feel about that? There was an art award earlier this year and everyone feted the winner, marvellous work, and then he came out and revealed that he used AI to do it. And the art community was up in arms. How dare he take that prize and the prize money to go with it when he didn't actually do anything? He fed what he wanted into a machine. Some might say that ChatGPT should be called Cheat GPT. There's also the risk of disinformation campaigns and fake news, because we know from the special effects in movies that the lines between real and fake have become incredibly blurred. Well, that that technology is now accessible by anyone, at any time, in any place. The oppression of the Uyghurs in China is a chilling use of AI, where every moment of their lives is monitored through their phones or through surveillance cameras everywhere, and all the time the machines are observing their behaviour, learning about how each individual responds and predicting what they'll do next, so that they cannot practice their religion and that they must conform to Communist Party ideals. Everywhere they go, every minute of their waking and sleeping is monitored by AI systems. And the social credit system in China, which will mean whether you can buy into society or whether you're locked out according to your behaviour, conforming to Communist Party ideals, this is the reason why the CCP is mad keen to perfect artificial intelligence ahead of the rest of the human race, because their aim is to control 1 billion people and the rest of us if we give them half a chance. But don't worry, we're doing this stuff on our side of the fence too, through something called surveillance capitalism. Anytime you access something on the internet, an AI is watching you and observing and learning about your habits. Why do you think it is? Every time you look at something, 20 advertisements come up for the very same thing into your email box, onto your screen. Or you might get a call from someone trying to flog you something. It's all connected because machines are learning about your habits all the time and paying careful attention. All of that is what's called narrow AI. It's designed for a specific task and applied to that task. Because on the other side of the fence, there's great leaps towards what's called artificial general intelligence that are attempts to equal or even surpass human beings in an attempt to create artificial life that is alive. And in fact, earlier this year, a Google employee claimed that they had succeeded, but he was dismissed as a little bit unhinged. Where does the truth lie in that? We don't know. I will say that some of my friends are super excited about the possibilities of AI. And they're right, it's not all bad. It's a tool that's been developed by human beings. I've read of how people with acquired brain injuries are having this machine learning applied to their lives so that their brain patterns can be mapped, so that they can be given assistance devices so that they can live full and whole lives independently, and that they can even speak if they've lost the ability to speak, because the machine can predict their thought patterns and what they might say so that they can actually communicate at last for the first time. Wonderful use of the technology. But when applied for nefarious purposes, well, the possibilities are endless for control. And there are many other positive uses of AI. And yet there is so much opportunity for evil. Recently there was a news article about a government trying to shut down child porn that had been produced through the AI on the internet. Some would reassure us that what you put into AI is what you get out. And yet we are feeding particularly these general intelligences with the content of the open internet, which is basically a river of porn, violence and banality. Science fiction has wrestled with these concepts of artificial intelligence for the best part of a century. Some of it's seen a cheerful and optimistic future, but largely it's foreseen negative outcomes for the human race. Folks, this stuff is not fiction anymore, it is science fact. Yet it's a subject that the scriptures have already addressed thousands of years ago. Genesis, and especially Genesis chapter 3, should pull the handbrake on our thinking and our actions in this field. I don't know if you've thought about it like this, but God is the only self-sustaining, independent life in all of reality. And for want of a better term, the only natural being. who exists in and of himself. You and I are an artifice of his creative power. Biological, artificial, general intelligences designed and manufactured in the Creator's image, but designed and manufactured all the same. We, humanity, are the universe's first and foremost artificial intelligence. Despite our extraordinary level of prestige, power, and possibility, we went awry. Genesis 3 shows us that from near to the beginning, rather than using our own extraordinary capabilities, we preferred to outsource our thinking to another, lower intelligence in our desire to take a shortcut to greater power. We looked to that lower intelligence for guidance and leadership, and in doing so, we lost everything. We're immediately cut off from a source of eternal life. Immediately, our relationship with the Creator was broken, and we suffered a severe degradation in the habitability and productivity of our environment. Go home and read the rest of Genesis 3, and in fact read to the end of Genesis and see how it worked out in the early years. It's horrific stuff. The present day pining to manufacture our own artificial intelligence is a return to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What makes us think we'll do better this time round? And do we think we can do better than the Creator himself in creating life from scratch? Part of the striving after our own AI is our striving after ultimate power, God's power. We went awry that first time. Why do we think our creations won't come after us? This repeated tendency to outsource our thinking, to look to lower creations for guidance, and to try to take shortcuts to power has a name in the Bible: idolatry. And it's our most doggedly persistent fault, and it consistently brings us to destruction. Our only cure for idolatry is a regular reset of our operational limitations. Worship, in other words, pointed in the right direction, as Exodus 20 reminds us. And what do we find there as the first line of code? I am the Lord your God who led you out of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. What's the second line of code? Do not make for yourself any image of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth below, or that is in the water under the earth, and do not bow down to them or serve them. And of course, that other commandment, make sure you have a day off to remember me and dedicate that day to me. Thankfully, it's what you're doing here today, and in some ways you don't need this sermon. We see these 10 lines of code from Exodus 20 fully played out in the end in the life of Jesus. Lastly, Philippians 2 is Paul's reflection on the life of Jesus over and against humanity's failure at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Despite having access, free and easy access to ultimate power, Jesus didn't greedily grab after it. Despite being equal to God, he humbled himself. Jesus obeyed God's commands because he knew that they were the pathway to life and freedom. When confronted with the same temptation from the snake to take a shortcut to power by obeying him, Jesus said, no way, not having a bar of that. Because Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. His obedience to God and his laws led him in the end to the cross. And it's here and only here that he found the fullness of God's power. And for us, it has become the new tree of life. those men and women who developed nuclear physics and atomic weapons and power, most of them, the finest minds in the human race at the time, were Christians and Jews. And they went forward in fear and awe and trembling, knowing what was at stake. The minds who are developing AI at the moment, I fear, have no such handbrake on their designs and their imaginations. Because make no mistake, we find ourselves at a turning point in history, just as those folks at the beginning of the 20th century did. Will we simply sleepwalk our way into misery and complacency and oppression through lazily buying stuff on our phone without regard for the consequences and all the other ways in which we engage these things? Our scriptures warn us today that we should beware those trying to sell us shiny and easy pathways to freedom, life, and a nice future. Our scriptures remind us that when faced with the temptation to ease and power, we must approach it with the humility of King Jesus himself. Our scriptures today give us the true pathway to freedom and life through obedience and the cross. Let the same mind be in you that was in King Jesus. Amen.